Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. And first up, tensions are escalating between China and Hong Kong's CK Hutchison Holdings over the company's decision to sell its non-China ports to a consortium led by US investment giant BlackRock. The $19 billion deal, which includes 43 port terminals across the globe, and which we've been following for the last few weeks here on China Update due to its immense geopolitical implications, has drawn intense scrutiny from Beijing, which is reportedly investigating potential security risks and antitrust violations. Since the deal's announcement on the 4th of March, Chinese authorities have expressed increasing dissatisfaction. Beijing-controlled media outlet Ta Kung has published several scathing critiques of the deal, questioning the strategic wisdom of allowing American firms to acquire critical port assets. One editorial warned, quote, "Has the so-called shrewd deal taken into account the interests of the country and the nation? Is such a choice actually helping the evildoers and bringing harm to China and the world?" End quote. US-based Bloomberg reported that several Chinese regulatory agencies, including the State Administration of Market Regulation, SAMR, have been instructed to review the deal. While it remains unclear what legal mechanisms China could use to block the sale, given that all the ports in question are outside of China, indeed many of them are much closer to the US than to China, Beijing could exert indirect pressure on CK Hutchison or BlackRock to scuttle the transaction. A Beijing official based in Hong Kong, speaking anonymously to Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post, stated that the central government was conducting a broader review of private Chinese and Hong Kong shipping assets. The source noted that Beijing was, quote, extremely unhappy, end quote, that CK Hutchison did not inform authorities beforehand, leaving little time for the government to react. Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee has also added to the controversy this week, stating yesterday that concerns about the deal deserved, quote, serious attention, end quote, and emphasizing that all business transactions must comply with the city's laws. His comments reflect Beijing's increasing involvement in Hong Kong's economic policies, as well as the growing influence of national security considerations in business decisions there. Now, the reason we've been following this so closely is because it's more than just a business deal. It has deep geopolitical implications. The sale's geopolitical significance is further underscored by US President Donald Trump's enthusiastic endorsement. In his what was essentially a de facto State of the Union address, Trump hailed the deal as part of his administration's strategy to, quote, reclaim the Panama Canal, end quote, referring to the historic waterway's strategic importance to global trade and US interests. China, on the other hand, has reportedly considered using the Panama port issue as leverage in trade negotiations with the US before CK Hutchison's sudden announcement disrupted its plans, according to the US-based Wall Street Journal. The unexpected nature of the deal has fueled speculation that Beijing may retaliate by obstructing other US-China business agreements, such as the ongoing negotiations over TikTok's US operations, which we will cover soon. With China's heightened scrutiny, the fate of the deal remains uncertain. Wang Xiangwei, an associate professor at Hong Kong Baptist University, noted that similar scrutiny would likely occur if the roles were reversed, expressing to the US-based New York Times this week, quote, let's do a reverse and say BlackRock announced it was going to sell its ports to a company in Hong Kong, end quote. As Beijing weighs its response, the broader implications for Hong Kong's business environment and foreign investor confidence loom large. If China moves to derail the deal, it could further deter international businesses from operating in Hong Kong, a financial hub already struggling to regain global trust after years of political turmoil. While Beijing's next move remains unclear, one thing is certain: national security concerns will continue to play an outsized role in shaping China's economic decisions, even at the cost of foreign investor confidence. Next up, we now move to the economy, and we have some good news and some very bad news. Consumer sentiment in China has improved significantly from last year, according to a new survey by Deutsche Bank AG, signaling a shift in household expectations. However, the country's struggling property sector remains a major concern, limiting overall confidence. According to Deutsche Bank's latest report, 54% of respondents said they feel financially better off than a year ago, a notable rise from the 44% average in 2024. Additionally, the proportion of those expecting an income increase in the coming year climbed for the second consecutive quarter to 60%. Yi Xiong, Deutsche Bank's chief economist for China, stated in the report, quote, "We think a true turning point in sentiment likely hinges on housing prices stabilizing." End quote. The survey also highlighted that 63% of respondents cited property volatility as a reason to cut spending, up from 60% in the previous quarter. Investor sentiment has also improved, with the MSCI China Index climbing more than 20% in 2025 to date, in contrast to a 4% decline in the S&P 500 index. However, unlike the American stock market, the Chinese index is still down from its 2021 high. That was the good news. Now for the bad. China's housing market downturn worsened in February, even though we are now years into the crisis, as new home prices declined at a faster pace, despite government efforts to stabilize the sector. Prices in 70 major cities, excluding state-subsidized housing, fell 0.14% from January, doubling the previous month's decline, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Meanwhile, second-hand homes continued to slide, dropping 0.34% for the second consecutive month. Now, these are official data, so we take them with a grain of salt. Some may completely reject them out of hand, but it is noteworthy, at the very least, that the official numbers show a negative trend. Persistent slump raises concerns that the long-running property crisis is far from over, despite signs of improvement in sales. Lu Ting, chief China economist at Nomura Holdings, expressed in a note, quote, "Markets should not forget that China's property collapse is not yet over. From the high-frequency data, the property sector appears to be losing some momentum." End quote. Particularly worrying is the 0.1% drop in used home prices in top-tier cities, often seen as a leading indicator due to fewer government interventions. Though year-on-year declines slightly moderated, with new home prices down 5.22% in February versus 5.43% in January, the sector remains fragile. Hey guys, as most of you know now, this week I launched my second channel after 6 months of preparations. I've been very excited to launch it, and I very much appreciate your wonderful feedback and support. In 3 days, the channel has reached 3,000 subscribers, which is incredible. The third episode of this new channel, Market Update, was released about an hour ago. For those who don't know, Market Update uses the China Update style of presentation, but focuses on major economic and financial updates, one in North America, one in Europe, and one in Asia, to give viewers a very well-rounded and balanced digest of the most consequential economic and financial updates around the world. Indeed, one of the advantages of Market Update is that we cover the sort of developments that are often ignored or not covered in general Anglophone media. There is one development in particular, which is massive news. It's devastating to one of the world's largest economies, and it simply just has not been covered in Anglophone media. I've put this new episode from an hour ago in the description below, as well as in the comments. If you're interested in China Update style analysis of North America, Europe, and Asia, give it a watch. Let me know your feedback, and I hope you get as much enjoyment and value from this new channel as you have done from China Update. And if you're enjoying this episode of China Update, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. That's also a big help. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. And finally, for today, the White House is reportedly seriously considering a deal that would allow Oracle to oversee TikTok's US operations, a move intended to address ongoing security concerns while potentially averting a ban on the app. However, the proposal has already sparked skepticism among lawmakers and analysts who argue that any agreement short of full divestiture from Chinese parent company ByteDance would be insufficient. According to sources cited by US-based Politico, key lawmakers, including congressional Republicans, have invited Oracle for discussions this week to evaluate the feasibility of the proposal. Under the potential arrangement, Oracle would manage US user data and ensure there are no backdoors that could allow the Chinese government to access the information. However, a person familiar with the discussions cautioned, quote, "If the Oracle deal moves forward, you still have this algorithm controlled by the Chinese." End quote. The deal, informally referred to as Project Texas 2.0, builds upon an earlier agreement that attempted to relocate US user data to Texas-based servers under Oracle supervision. That effort failed to fully assuage concerns from lawmakers and the Biden administration, as questions remained over ByteDance's control of TikTok's core algorithm and content moderation policies. Representative John Mulnar, chairman of the House Select Committee on China, has been vocal in opposing any deal that does not eliminate ByteDance ByteDance influence over TikTok. In an op-ed in the National Review, he warned that ByteDance is using the same tactics as before to maintain control. Quote, "This setup reeks of deja vu. In 2023, through the failed Project Texas, ByteDance tried to create the illusion of better data privacy by storing Americans' data on the US servers, all while ByteDance kept its grip on the platform." End quote. Amid growing scrutiny, TikTok has launched an aggressive lobbying campaign attempting to sway lawmakers with advertising across Washington, D.C. metro stations and releasing studies arguing that it poses no security threat. However, as Politico reports, these efforts appear to have had little impact on China hawks in Congress, who remain resolute in their demands for ByteDance's full divestment. As the deadline for TikTok's fate in the United States draws closer, the battle over its ownership intensifies. On these developments, veteran China analyst Bill Bishop observed today, quote, "Even if the mooted deal is in violation of the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, if Trump certifies it, will anyone with standing sue to block it? And if Beijing blows up the BlackRock C.K. Hutchinson Ports deal, something seen as a big win for Trump in his pressure campaign on Panama over PRC influence, will he then decide that she has taken him for a sucker and ultimately blow up this TikTok deal?" End quote. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. If you are interested, maybe check out Market Update. I've put the link in the description below. Have a great Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.